Quilt Tube, I hope all's well. My name is Kirsty, Crafting Kirsty here on YouTube and on Instagram. It is Monday the 14th of October 2024 and I'm here with Quilt Tube number 1. I do have other videos on my channel. I do a lot of cross stitching, knitting and crochet as well, and I normally mix those all into the one video, but I decided this September I was going to try and divide them into 3 separate videos and have a 6-week gap between each video. And so this will be Quilt Tube number 1. If you are interested and you go onto my channel, you will find that I have got some individual Quilt Tube videos probably about a year ago. But yeah, there's a real sort of mashup. But anyway, I had a bit of a quilting slump over the summer. I always tend to anyway. And then I think sort of August, September time, I was looking for quilting videos on YouTube because there aren't a huge amount. There's an awful lot of people that quilt, and there's a huge community of floss tubers out there, and there aren't as many quilters or quilt tube videos. So I was having a hunt through YouTube trying to find some, and I came across a came across a channel called T Rose Quilting, which is a mother and daughter duo, Jennifer and Taylor, in America. And Jennifer is the mother and she does the quilting, and Taylor is the daughter, and she does a lot of crochet, and she makes these absolutely fantastic crocheted animals and garlands and flowers, and it's really good. But I was watching Jennifer, they've only got about 5 videos out, and I think in the first one she was displaying a lot of quilts that she had made, which were small, scrappy quilts, scrappy in inverted commas. I think they were sort of the Kim Deal simple whatnots, the patterns and the kits that you can buy. And I love those colours and I love those type of quilts, and it really just inspired me to get back into quilting again and just to get on a bit of a mission with it. So here we are with my first Quilt Tube video. I'm really struggling. I don't struggle this much in floss tubes talk. I'm really struggling today. So the quilt behind me we'll start with is my Katherine K Etal Rouge. If you've watched any of my videos before, you would have seen this. Probably finished it about a year ago, only just got round to quilting it and binding it. Didn't actually quilt it, I ended up tying it because this is 7x7 blocks, so 49 blocks in total, and it really is quite large. It's a king size quilt, I think, and I'd like to hang it over the Christmas time. I asked, when I chose the fabrics, I chose specifically red, green and gold because I sort of just had this idea of a Christmas-y quilt that I'd like to be able to hang, and then it'll go on the bed, and then it'll have to go in the washing machine. And I did just feel that A, hanging it, and B, washing it with the batting in between with such a large quilt was going to be quite a struggle. So I just decided to make it into a coverlet. So it's only got a top and a bottom and it's tied. And I certainly don't think you can see the ties from here. I was sitting across the table making some notes and I can't see it, but I've just gone in. So I've done sort of, basically in every individual block there are ties, but there's nothing in between the greens and the golds. Did I say Katherine K Etal Rouge? It's I don't know, I can't remember if it's a weekly block along or a monthly block along. Katherine K has a website, and on it she has a number of quilts, some of which are free, some of which you pay for. She has a huge inventory of videos of how to, helpful hints, blah, blah, blah. This one was free to join. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it. She has got, I think probably her most famous one is a 365 day quilt, and you make a block a day, and some of them are only sort of 3-inch by 3-inch blocks, and some of them are 6x6, and there's hundreds of pieces in them. I did start, and I did start that one, and I think as many people do, I started, got to about March or April, and just stopped. Whether I ever go back to try it again, I don't know, we'll see. So that is an older quilt, and I will hopefully I've got enough old quilts that over the next sort of few videos I'll be able to have one hanging behind me to talk about it. So what have I been up to? Well, as I said, I really oomphed back into quilting in sort of September time. And the first thing I made was a Halloween quilt. And I have just watched Tea Rose Quilting, their 5th video. And I did go, oh, I've made that. So on one of their videos, Jennifer was showing a panel from, where is it? J. Wicker Frisch, I think is how you say it. And the lady has produced a lot of Halloween panels and they're really, really good. Anyway, so I picked up, I think this is Queen of Ween. I think it's Queen of Ween. So it came as a panel, it came as a panel and then it had some extra bits. Let me show you, sorry, it's quite large. Let me show you the middle. So you get the 4, I'm going to have to disappear behind, sorry. You get the 4 ladies that all come on the one panel. And then these squares, I think there's 2 that I didn't use. Can you see? I can't see what you can see, sorry about this. Talk about amateur. And that one there. And then the strips down the side are a couple of bits of fabric, a couple of pieces that I ordered along with the main panels, and then some that I already had. And I basically just made it up as I went along. And then these crowns all came on a panel together. And I didn't really want to cut into them because I thought you'd lose the crown, so I just cut round them and I very scrappily and messily just appliqued them onto the top and onto the bottom. I know Jennifer's going to add rhinestones or beads or something to the crowns of her ladies. I'm not. So as I said, when I said I made it up as I went along, I made it up as I went along. I just literally cut the blocks out, added 2-inch strip down the middle, and then started doing the strips down the side. That was it. So this will not be quilted in time for Halloween. This will just hang as it is this year, and then I will finish it off properly for next year. But I'm really pleased with that, and I think it was a get on and do it. I made the pattern up as I went along, which you're always a bit self-doubty about it. I do like it, I'm quite happy with how it's worked out. Obviously things like my middle strip doesn't line up with an outer strip, but I just made sure that it lined up unevenly on both sides, if that makes sense. Anyway, so it was nice to just get a top done and dusted. Probably took about a week by the time I'd thought about it, cut things out, realised I'd gone wrong, recut things, all the rest of it. So that is the Halloween quilt, and as I said, the initial panel, the 4 ladies, the 4 squares in the corner are from J. Wicker Frisch, who seems to have a lot of very good Halloween fabrics. I think actually in Tea Rose Quilting she's showing a lot of her panels. It's becoming a very green-eyed monster. She has a lot of very nice Halloween panels. Then I decided to bite the bullet, and for years I've watched I've watched Olivia of Pumpkin Hollow Quilts, and every autumn time she has hanging up behind her, sorry mine's in black and white, this quilt, which is called the Pumpkin Patch by Rhonda McRae, and it is from the Primitive Patchwork and Punch Needle magazine. I can't remember exactly, and I've only printed out the first 2 pieces. It's that Primitive Patchwork and Quilting magazine, I think it is. But you can buy it as a digital download. And for years I've watched her videos and I love that, I'd really like to make it. Right, let's do it. So I bought the download, purchased the download. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I started. My problem is I buy either fat quarter bundles or half metre bundles or what have you of fabrics I like, and then they're so lovely I don't want to cut into them and I want to save them for something special, and then that special thing never really comes along, so they just sit there and then I stroke them a bit more, just cut into them. So that is what I've started doing. So in my little box here I have now cut out all the pieces to essentially make I've pieced the first two to make a pumpkin block and a 9 patch set into a square. I have used, and I can't remember, this is a fabric line from a couple of years ago now, and as I said I bought quite a large sort of bundle of it. So I've got these oranges for some, that's orange. These are all my pumpkin colours. There is I have actually put another couple of fabrics in. And look at that, how gorgeous is that? So these will be all the pumpkins. Now the pumpkins are supposed to be sort of rusty orange, a green, of which, hang on a minute, sorry. I have my two greens here, green, and then a sort of off-white, and I don't have an off-white, or I didn't have an off-white that I wanted to use. So I actually ended up choosing two blues, because I have grown blue pumpkins in the past. So I'm not showing these very well. And I think both of these have actually come from a William Morris bundle that I have. But they're lovely and they mix in. So as I said, everything is now cut. All the individual elements are put together. And then it's just going to be a case of sitting down and putting it all together. And hopefully coming out with something like that, but in colour. So I will finally, eventually, have my own pumpkin patch quilt. So you've got the two like that. And then you just have pumpkin patch, pumpkin patch. So very pleased with that. It took me about a week to cut out all of those pieces and piece the individual sections together. Because I've 6 weeks between the videos, I'm going to try and work on probably 4 projects a week at a time and then have the 2 weeks as spare, because obviously life and all the rest of it. So having finished the Halloween quilt, having spent about a week cutting those out and sorting out, I then decided for ages I've wanted to make a table topper for our coffee table in the lounge, and it's a decent sized coffee table, and it was all just about finding the quilt top that would fit to it. And I've got a couple of smaller books, or I've got a couple of books that I was sort of using and looking at. And here we go. So we've got a Kim Deal Simple Whatnots. So I was flicking through these books and a couple of others, and I was trying to basically work out the maths of, you know, if I've got I don't know what's one of these come out as, a 13.5 by 16.5, how can I enlarge it to fit the table, or how many times would I make it and put across in the middle? Whatever. I eventually decided to work on Plain Folk, it's called. Strippy rectangles and crimson pinwheels. Work a little bit of magic in this easy to piece patchwork quilt. So you end up with that. And it's lovely. And it finishes at 18.5 by 18.5. and the block size is 6 by 6. And our coffee table is 48 by 34. So I sort of thought, well, it'll fit, and then I'll just have to have a sort of 2-inch border at either end or something. Didn't really think it through. So I started to do scrappy, because I love scrappy when everyone else does it. When I do it, I'm never quite so keen. So I cut out a whole load of strips, which if they don't fall off, I'll show you on here. I've got my little numbers underneath telling me which are there's 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5. And then I made the pinwheel. So I thought, well, I'd cut so many strips because I knew I was going to have to cut more than it asked for in the book. And then I was getting a little bit confused about the number per individual sizes that I needed. So I thought, I'm just going to make one and then I can see what I'm supposed to be doing. So I ended up making this one. So the first thing that struck me was your pinwheel in the middle. You're asked to cut 2 1 7/8 squares, cut them on the diagonal, and then sew them together as half square triangles. So, they're quite small to be sewing together as half. So follow the directions, tried it, and of course, you know how it just gets chewed into the bottom of the machine, even if you've got a leader, it just chewed and it was going nowhere. So I ended up scrapping that bit, and then I did it where you put the 2 pieces of fabric right side together, drew the line down the middle, did 1/4 inch each side, cut down the middle, opened it out, and I went up to 2 inches from 1 7/8. I went up to 2 inches, and I thought I can just trim it down if I need to, and that actually came out as the perfect size, and it's far easier than cutting these on the diagonal and then stitching them back together again. But anyway, so this was the first block. I worked out how many of which I needed. And then I thought, I don't really like it. Really struggle with scrappy quilts. I love to see everyone else's scrappy quilts. And this is truly scrappy. Some of these fabrics have been around for a long time. I literally just pulled out strips of I don't know what from when. I don't know when I was using them last. And I think these sorts of scrappy, where it all comes from one fabric line, are absolutely lovely. Not so keen on this. So having cut, and then realised that actually to fill the table, I was going to need to cut about 80 odd 2.5 inch strips, and it would be double, so about 160 odd of some other strips. I just don't like it, not cutting that many strips, not happy with this. So what I've done is I've worked out how many I've got here. I think essentially I can make 5 blocks. So I will make 5 of these, and then I'll turn it into a bag, project bag, because, you know, that's always a good option if you don't want to make a whole quilt. So I will make a project bag out of that. Still didn't have a tabletop for my table. And there had been a particular, it's not a jelly roll, they're 5 inches. So it's a jelly roll, but it's 5 inches instead of 2.5. I cannot remember what it's called. And I did try looking it up and I wasn't getting anywhere. And I've been desperate to use this particular sort of bundle that I'd had for absolutely ages, thinking, come on, just use it. Stop looking at it, use it. So I stuck with this theme, and I decided that I was going to double the size of the pinwheels just to make life easier. So I did that first of all. Oh, sorry, let me show you, sorry. Get back to the beginning. Let me show you. So I've got this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous array of these colours. I think this is Kansas Troubles, one of their lines. Fresh Cut Flowers by Kansas Troubles Quilters. I love their fabrics. So I had these. So they're 5 inches by 43, 44. I have used 1 or 2 very small sections of it. So of course 5 inches, if I can cut those what am I trying to say? Sorry. To get my pinwheels, I decided I would do 2.5 and 2.5, which actually comes out at, written down a whole load of notes somewhere. So my 2.5 inch squares give me a 3.5 inch pinwheel. So that's great. So for each strip of fabric, I'm at least using the entire, I just wanted to use all the fabric if I could. So for the 2.5 for the pinwheels, it gives me a 3.5 inch pinwheel in the middle. And then I decided I could have started dividing it up even more, but I decided actually I'm literally just going to cut down the middle of the fabric. So I've got 2.5 to go here and here, and then I'll have 2.5 on this side. So I've decided that instead of doing scrappy, I am going to use these 4 I will use as my centre pinwheels. So we've got, sorry, those, that, and that. They will be my pinwheels. I will then use these lovely colours as my outer edges. So I was like, oh, okay. And at the size it comes out at, which is 7.5 inch unfinished, so 7 inches finished, fits perfectly onto my table by complete fluke. There was no mathematics involved at all. Complete fluke, it fits perfectly onto my table, and I will have an even border all the way around it. Absolutely fantastic. So then I was thinking, well, how many blocks am I going to get out? So essentially I need 24 blocks. Yeah, I need 24 blocks. So then I was working out the amount of fabric I've got, how many blocks I'm going to get out of each fabric. And I suddenly realised that I was only going to get 1 full block, and then I'd be left with probably about 1/3 of the fabric strip. So then I thought, God's sake, nothing's ever easy, is it? So then I will do some scrappy ones of the leftover bits. So then, having worked out the design, I should manage to have, you won't be able to see this or read this, I don't, 16 around the outside, which I think will be entire one colour. Sorry, I forgot to put the blue on. These are from a different one, but I'm also going to add blue in as well. So I will have 16 entire colour, one colour squares. And then I will have 8 scrappy squares, which I will put in the middle. And after all of that thinking, I had to go and have a glass of wine. Oh my God, my brain was frazzled. I was working this all out last night because I knew I wanted to film today. I was doing that last night and just got so fed up, was so cross that I'd spent all that time sorting out my colours, cutting them out, to then not like it and still not be having a topper for the table and using the fabric that I really wanted to use. So right, I'm not going to bed till I've worked this all out. So this is what this table topper will eventually look like, but it is serendipitous. It fits. So I'm really pleased with that. Those are the 2 scrappy quilts. I've talked about the pumpkin quilt. So if you've watched me before, you will know that I'm currently in the process of making the Jane Austen's quilt. But I call it the coverlet because again, and I don't think I will put wadding in it. I started this, I think last December, and I have real fits and starts with it. I haven't made it, this was supposed to be my summer quilt. This was supposed to be the quilt that I worked on over the summer. And I just never got to it. I'm at the point now where I have to cut out a whole load more bits of fabric. I'm English paper piecing it, sorry. This is an appalling video. Sorry, I'm English paper piecing this quilt. So I have to cut out the fabrics and then I have to work them onto the paper and then you stitch them all together. So it's a couple of stages to the process. And I do find it easier to just do a bulk load of cutting, a bulk load of gluing onto the paper, and then stitch together. And I just never got round to all the cutting, so that will be probably this week's job. So yes, so I'll just quickly show you, for those of you that haven't seen before, I am using fabric line called Bonheur de Jour French General, with a couple of other French General fabrics thrown in, and then a couple of browns, just to add a bit of measure. Now, in the actual Jane Austen quilt, the lady who reworked it, redesigned it, or just charted it, I suppose. So she got permission to chart the Jane Austen quilt, and she's got very thorough instructions on, because it's all symmetrical, what fabric should go where, the colouring, etc, etc. I tried to follow it, it didn't work out for me, so I just bought a fat bundle of the French Generals. So these are the sorts of things I've got to so far, and I've got to make a whole load more of these for the middle. But yes, if you haven't watched me before, you will not have seen these. And I have sorry, I've got everything everywhere here on the table. So I have a little box here. These are, I've had a few false starts with this. So these are some squares that I had initially sewn together, or diamonds that I had initially sewn together, and I decided I didn't like. So I took them all apart, and I will still be using them within the quilt. They'll just be in separate areas. So in this little box, I've got a whole load of fabrics, and they've all got their own numbers to them, so that when I go to cut out the squares, I know what fabric should be going where. And it's all based on sort of background colour, large flowers, small flowers, you know, various things like that. But yeah, so I need to get back into this chest and get cutting again. I do enjoy doing it, but as I said, it's quite a sort of, there's a certain number of stages to it. And I just need to get a whole load more cut out and organised, because then it's easy to sit and sew them all together. So that is my Jane Austen coverlet. So that will get a bit of work over the next month. Right, plans. So as I said, I want to get a sort of probably 4 quilts or 4 projects on the go, and then, you know, a week per each, 2 weeks spare to make up for lost time on whichever quilts I don't get to for whatever reason. I am hoping to go to Malvern Quilt Show this weekend, and at that quilt show I will be finding some black background fabric, or the black fabric, to start cutting out and making this Midnight Silhouette by Blackbird Designs. Again, I've loved this quilt for ages. I've seen Olivia B has made it. Has she finished it? I don't know if she's finished it or not. I think she probably has actually. But she's made it, and it asks for a lot of sort of woven stripes, and does it? Yeah, plaids and things, which I don't really find many of. So that always halted me slightly in starting this, was finding, you know, those sorts of orangey, stripy materials. You don't find many of them over here. Well, I don't anyway. So that would always stop me from starting this, just thinking I haven't really got quite the right fabrics. Anyway, I watch a lady called Carolee, who has a YouTube channel called Stitching is Elementary. She does cross stitching and quilting as well. She's recently started doing weekend quilty vlogs. So she sort of goes on Friday night and tells you what she's going to try and achieve over the weekend, and then she vlogs it, which is really great. She does a lot of Laurie Holt quilts, but she also does a lot of other quilts. And she is currently in the process of making this quilt, and she was just using normal fabrics. I was like, for God's sake, why didn't I just do that? So actually, having cut out the pumpkins, a lot of the fabrics in that fabric line will be very suitable for this. And now I've cut into that lovely stash of fabric, so I've got no issue with using it. It's just that initial cut is so scary. And this is a very special one, and I think it will look lovely. I think that that range that I've got will look lovely within here. As I said, I just need to get some black, and I need to decide on the sort of yellowy. I've got something that might, we shall see. So hopefully I'll pick that up at the Malvern Quilt Show, and then I can start cutting out for that. And then the other quilt I did think, or project I did think I might start again, because this is a restart, is this Dancing Chickens and Flying Pigs by Hatched and Patched. Do love this. Now, I started this probably about 1.5 years ago, and I had a lot of issues with it. Firstly, my first issue is that actually they're all on the same sized rectangles, but you cut the individual rectangles out with a 1/4 inch seam, and then when you finished putting all the stuff on, you then sew them together, which is fine. Only I don't know if, and somehow I managed to mess up cutting it out. I don't know how. I was obviously just having a minute, really. And yeah, I managed to mess up how I cut it out, and didn't realise until I was sort of 2/3 of the way through the first block, and everything had shifted 1 inch over. And then I was using a lot of wool for the applique, and I was really struggling because I was using heat and bond, and I was really struggling getting it to stay in place, and that would also slip or move slightly out of where I'd wanted it to be, basically because the wool was too thick, the heat wasn't getting through. So then I tried doing it from the back, but that's never great when you try to flip something over, it never quite works. So yeah, so the first block basically just ended up on a diagonal out of the lines, and I said, oh, I've had enough of this. But I do really like this, and I have got a Christmas one as well, by the same people. So I'm going to start this again. Oh, the other thing, I had very thick calico. So I've bought a lot of calico over the years. I don't quite know why. Bought a lot of calico over the years, and there are different thicknesses to it. And I think the one that I was using was very thick, which also probably didn't help with the heat and bond issues that I was having. And then that is embroidery on this with regards to the wording and things, and I was really struggling with the embroidery through the thickness of the calico. So I have actually got here, I sort of went back through my stash, and I have got this calico which I need to check is big enough. If it's not big enough, I will just get some more Malvern Quilt Show, but this is a lot thinner, so I'm going to use this calico, and I'm just going to use cotton fabrics to make it rather than the wool, because I will have to buy, I think I'd bought enough wool to make the first block. Yeah, so rather than buying more wool and struggling again, I'm just going to use cotton fabrics because I've got a lot of those. And yeah, I can pick and mix my colours, whereas again, sort of wool felt over here, don't get a huge amount of it. It tends to come in bundles, so you don't get to pick and choose. Yeah, but anyway, that's Dancing Chickens and Flying Pigs by Hatched and Patched. And I think those are really the only 2 plans I have at the moment, quilting wise. Basically, is to work on all those projects. So I think I mentioned at the beginning that obviously I came across Tea Rose Quilting, Quilt Tube videos, and I thought I'd mention a couple of other people. So I've already mentioned Olivia of Pumpkin Hollow Quilts. Again, she used to do cross stitch and quilting at the end, and she's now morphed into cross stitching or quilting. And she always has lovely, lovely quilts. I do love her quilts, I really do. And I also think, who else have I already mentioned? Oh, Carolee, sorry. Carolee of Stitching is Elementary. Again, as I said, quite a few of her videos will have cross stitching and quilting, but she has also started these quilting vlogs that are great fun to watch. So other quilt tubers that I watch, Christy, Crosshatch Quilts, Bonnie the Log Cabin Stitcher, I really enjoy her videos, and I think I'm going to definitely give a go to the slow quilting on probably, Oh, I could even do it on one of these smaller coffee table quilts just to give it a go. I was at an event recently and I was looking at some Valdani threads there. I was like, oh, pretty colours, pretty threads. Obviously Carol, Saltbox Stitcher, whenever she sort of has quilts on display or does a quilt video where she's selling her quilts, I do like to look at those. There's Laurie, who is textilist, I think is how you say it. So she does a lot of wool applique, quilting. Yeah, she has lots of projects on the go, and again they're all very, I really like the sort of Civil War, primitive, or chintz. Not a huge modern fabric fan. So yeah, so she's very much in that style, so I like to watch her. Celeste of Celeste Creates, again, she makes a lot of Laurie Holt quilts and uses a lot of Laurie Holt fabrics. So they're enjoyable to watch. And Katie, So Tattered. Haven't seen a video from her for a little while, but she normally has some very nice quilts and fabrics. And Olivia B, who has, you know, if you've been on YouTube watching anything, either cross-stitching or quilting, you'll know of Olivia B. And she does have a shop, and I'm blanking, I think it's Rookery Hill Studio. Oh, sorry, I'll put it down below. But she does have a shop and she does quite a lot of applique. And she has certain tools that she uses, and I know she stocks those. Again, sorry, completely blanking. Stocks those in her shop. But I will put all of those people down below. So if, like me, you are looking for other people to watch Quilt Tube videos and towards the more primitive Civil War end of the line against the modern, I would definitely recommend all of those people, but I won't link them because I can't do that. I will just type out their names below. Anyway, I'm now going to go and watch this back and decide whether this train crash of a video is worth putting up or not. Floss tube is fine. I don't know why I found, whether it's just because it's the first time or I hadn't really, you know, I just sat down and wrote some, I don't know. Anyway, if you've watched, if you've lasted this long, thank you very much indeed. And I will be back in 6 weeks to hopefully show you some progress on some of these quilts. Take care. Bye.